Small tales from the kitchen. Fall, golden brown greenway, above hawk's perch branches bare. Hide, bunchy-tailed hare. Spicy lamb chops with Uncle Frank's crawfish dressing. Hey, so today we're going to be making spicy lamb chops, and this is a recipe I came up with after reading my favorite cookbook, Dishoom. They have a recipe in there for lamb chops that is delicious, and watching, what's the name of it? Salt, acid, heat, fat, everything good. And I thought to myself, what would be a great recipe that has a little combination of everything in it? So we've already prepped our lamb chops. We cut them into separate chops, pounded out the meatiest part, flattened it so when it cooks, it'll cook much more evenly. And you could do this just on your cutting board or in a food processor, but I have my good old mortar. And to that, I've added, let's look at the recipe, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And then I'm gonna put in about 1 teaspoon of fresh rosemary. And you don't have to worry about chopping it super fine because we're about to grind it all up. We did about 5 cloves of garlic. I just cut off the little bit nubs and smashed it a bit and put it in. This is Cajun seasoning. Now this is Emeril's Rustic Rub. You can find it online. I always keep a baggie of the Rustic Rub Cajun seasoning in my baggie in the pantry. It's a perfect combination for Cajun food. And we're gonna put a whole tablespoon of that in. We're gonna grind this, and then we're gonna add, oh, I almost forgot, lemon pepper is my secret ingredient. And I hate to be kind of crazy sounding about it, but Lowry's is my favorite lemon pepper. We'll put 1 teaspoon lemon pepper. All right, so we're just gonna lightly tap that around, get our garlic mashed in with the herbs. Have some champagne vinegar. So we'll go with a teaspoon of champagne vinegar and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And I think that's everything. We're gonna grind that together. I saved 1 lamb chop for you guys to see what I mean. So when I put the lamb chops into marinade, I usually put them in a big Ziploc bag, but you could also use a bowl. And when I pound the meatiest part of the lamb chop, I usually put it under just a little bit of plastic wrap so it doesn't get everywhere. And you don't have to hit it really hard. It's just a tap, tap, tap on that very meaty part. So that way it just cooks much more evenly. There we are. Into the Ziploc it goes. And then I'll add in the seasonings, mix them all around, and I'll check back in with you guys tomorrow because we're also gonna be making some crawfish stuffing with our lamb chops. Bye. So while I was reading my recipe, I thought, wait, I'm missing sugar. The recipe should also have 1 teaspoon of light brown sugar. I'll have to write it into the book. So don't forget your little bit of brown sugar to make it sweet. Here's a little bit on making stuffing, or if you prefer, dressing. So to go with our lamb chops, we're gonna make crawfish stuffing, and this is a recipe based on Frank's crawfish stuffing. He would use Pepperidge Farm stuffing mix, which you can absolutely use instead of doing your own. If you are going to do your own like I'm doing today, I took white mountain bread and tore it into 1-inch pieces yesterday, and I made some cornbread. There's a cornbread recipe in the cookbook, which I also tore into 1-inch pieces, and I just let that rest overnight. Then I popped it into the oven on some baking sheets with some parchment paper, and I just baked it at 375 degrees for about 10 or 11 minutes until they were nice and brown and crusty. And then I put in a stuffing mix. It has a little bit of thyme, salt, pepper, cayenne, sage. Tossed it on top. I'm gonna chop up some curly parsley. And I know some people prefer flat leaf parsley. Just use whatever you have. I'm gonna put that on a pretty fine mince. I'm gonna put about a tablespoon in there. And I'm making this a little bit ahead of time so it has even more time to dry out. But you could do it, 30 minutes even before you were going to do the recipe. Into a big bowl. Everything's going to get a toss. Whoop, hey, a little too much of a toss there. And that'll be ready. I'm going to have a little bite of my stuffing. This will also be great for Thanksgiving. Perfect. All right, I'll see you guys in a little bit. So as you can see, we have our sweet onion. That's about half a sweet onion, half a cup or so. Shiitake mushrooms, red peppers, butter, a buttered dish, our breadcrumbs, and I have a little bit of vegetable broth here. Woo, steam up my camera. And a pot that is ready for some sauteing. I'm using my wok, but of course you could use a high-sided skillet as well. Let's get ready. We're sauteing our onions and red peppers in some olive oil and butter on a low heat, just because this is a very hot working stove. We'll let this go for a couple of minutes and then add in our mushrooms. So I'll see you when we get there. We added our mushrooms about 2 minutes ago. I increased the heat to just below medium, get out some of the moisture. And now we're gonna add some wine. I'm using the very fancy Sutter Home bottle, perfect for cooking, Chardonnay. I'm gonna increase the heat just above medium and let that reduce down, and I'll check back in. That's had a chance to reduce. Now I'm going to add in my vegetable stock. I could also use shrimp stock, but I was just a little bit lazy here. So I'm going to strain in my vegetable stock, and I'll add 2 cups of whipping cream. This is not for the faint of heart. 1 going in. And 2. I'm going to let this come up just to a simmer. I don't want to let it go for too long. I'll add in my crawfish tails, and everything goes into the breadcrumbs. We're putting in 2 tablespoons of Cajun seasoning, more or less if you like. Let's give that a stir. And I'll show you what the whole mix looks like when it's done. Okay, here is a cute picture of Happy instead of what I intended to do, which was a final picture of all of it mixed together. But I put the crawfish tails in after I put in the heavy cream, gave everything a stir, added it to the crumb mix, gave all of that a gentle stir, just enough to incorporate everything, turned it out into my buttered up casserole dish, covered it with foil, and put it in the oven at 375 for 30 minutes. And then I took it out, uncovered it, put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. So I just started little olive oil, butter. We're putting our lamb chops in. I'm gonna put 4 or 5 at a time. Once they start going, give the pan a shake. Do a few minutes on each side, it'll be good. And we just flip them. So bubbly, perfect. Another minute, we'll let them cool and put it all together. And everything is done. We have our spicy lamb chops, crawfish stuffing, and I made a little bit of asparagus. You know, you gotta be healthy. Small tales from the kitchen cookbooks are available at Art on Broad in Augusta, Georgia.